Right now we're going to take a look at text boxes and our first look at string variables. Here's a design of the form we're going to make. It's often helpful to draw or make some kind of a diagram so you know what you're looking for. We're going to have some labels, they're in purple, and the text boxes are indicated in blue. We're going to have 3 buttons and then ultimately a green label there on the bottom displaying all the information. We won't necessarily use these colors on our activity, just showing you this is the form we're going to design. We'll open up a brand new project, and I think we'll call this one Textbox Movie. We're going to learn about text boxes, and along the way we'll use a movie title. That will come more into play in our second day. The form is going to need to be bigger than what it is right now. We'll take care of that in a moment. First, I'll change the text property, so instead of saying form 1 at the top, we'll indicate that this is actually helping us learn something about text boxes. So, learning about text boxes. Now I'll resize this. As you saw from the design we had earlier, we're going to need a lot more space than what the default form size was. First up, let's get 3 labels. We'll head over to the toolbox and grab 3 of them. Again, you see the laser line sort of activity that Visual Basic gives to us to help us line things up. I'm going to select all 3 of these and change their font sizes so they're a little easier to read. I'm not going to change their names. They're going to be prompts telling us what to put inside the text boxes. So, since nothing's ever going to happen to them while the program runs during runtime, we don't need to change them to LBL something. If you want to, you can. I'm not going to because, again, nothing is ever going to change with these labels. No actions will be taken with them. The first label I'm going to have indicates that you need to enter a movie that you like. For the second label, we'll have its text property indicate that you're going to enter first name. And our last label that we have on the form so far, we'll have that one prompt you to enter a last name. As I said, we're not going to change the names of these labels. I'll go ahead and change the foreground color of them. And we'll go with maroon. And they're all set. Now we'll go grab, for the first time for us, text boxes. They're in the toolbox. We're going to need 3 of them. So I'll double click on text box 3 times. There they are. They look different from labels. You can see that they give you an area where we're going to be able to enter text. We can widen these things pretty easily right off the start, but changing their height is not so simple right by default. The best way to change their height is to change the font size. So right now I'm selecting all 3 of them, making them wider, and I will go change the font size from the default 8 up to 16, which will automatically make those text boxes taller. Let's deal with that top text box, and we're going to change its name. We use the 3-letter prefix TXT, so I'm calling this one TXT Movie. Again, starting movie with a capital M. The next text box is where people should enter a first name, so we'll call this one TXT First Name. Notice the F and the N are uppercase, no spaces inside the names of objects. Our final text box we're going to call txt last name. And so now all of our text boxes have appropriate names. You can see when we run the program that we can actually type inside the text boxes. You might have also noticed by default the alignment was on the left when we were typing earlier. You can change that if you want. Look at what happens if we make the text alignment of TXT movie from the center. You notice the cursor is starting in the center and our text is entered aligned in the center. That's really a personal preference, up to you most of the time. We'll select all three of these right now and show you that you can, just like as we have done with labels, we can change the foreground color. Now when I type inside these text boxes, I made these maroon, so whatever I type inside there will show up maroon. We can also change the background colors if we desire. I have all three still selected at the same time right now, so when I change one, I'm changing them all. There you go. Those text boxes look like they're all set. We've got more controls to add to this form. You'll recall, if we look at our design we had, we've got 3 buttons we're going to need. We'll head over to the toolbox and get 3 buttons. I'll line these up and then in a moment make them larger. I'm going to select all 3 of them so I can make them all the same size and change the font of all 3 of these as well. Let's start with the first button and change its name, lowercase btn, and then I'll call it lowercase btn Display. It's going to be the button that gets us to display some information, so I'll call it Btn Display. Of course, that does not change the text property. Let's go down to the text property and look at if you want to guarantee multi-line text, you can click this drop-down cursor right there and observe inside this how we can get multi-lines. I'll put display on one line, hit enter, and put info on the next line, and then click off of this, and then guarantees that display is on one line and info is on another line. The purpose of our second button is going to be to clear the data and the final answer that we get. So I'll call it Btn Clear. We'll change its text property to say clear. Our third button's purpose is to end the program. We'll call it Btn Exit. And for the text property, we'll put the word exit. Well, we've got the buttons we need. The last thing we need on this form is a big label at the bottom that's going to display all of our information. I'll change the name of this to lowercase lbl, Information, with a capital I on information. I want to size this label myself, so I'm going to go to the auto size property, which by default is true when we have a label, and I'm going to turn that false. Now I can resize that label and make it as large as I need it to be. You'll notice, again, by default, the text alignment is in the upper left-hand corner, so first I'm going to change the font, make it bigger. That's on my way down to text align. It's currently in the top left, and I'm going to put it right in the middle center. Now, if I were to run the program right now, you'll see that label 4 right there. We don't want that text to appear when the program first runs. We'll have text appear there later on. So I'm going to go to the text property of LBL information and take the text out and leave it blank. The label still exists, but you don't see any text in its spot. Now let's do some coding. Going to Btn exit, you'll notice that I quickly typed at the top my name, date, name of the program, and a little bit of information. And our code to end the program is me.close. We'll test that out. It works. The next thing we're going to code is the Btn Display. So I'll double click on that. And the purpose of this is to display information about the user and a movie. We're going to declare a variable. When we declare a variable, we start with DIM. That's short for dimension, but it's DIM, and then we're going to actually state the name of the variable. Because this is a string variable, a string of characters, if you think about it, any words are strings of characters. I'm going to start with lowercase str. And I'm going to call it lowercase str first name. And I'm going to have to say it is as string. That's the type of variable it's going to be. It's very close, but not the same as txt first name. They're two totally different names, so it's okay. Or two totally different identifiers, so we're in good shape. I also did one for the last name. I'll put a little documentation here to indicate that these are the variables that we're declaring. If these variables needed further explanation, I would put that there as well, but they're named so well I think it's pretty obvious. Now I want the first name to equal the text inside txt first name. So that's what we're going to type. It's an assignment operator for the equal sign. We're going to take what's on the right-hand side, what's in txt first name.text property, and assign it to the left-hand side into str first name. We'll do the same thing with str last name. Whatever's in the text property of txt last name will be assigned to str last name. Take what's on the right-hand side and assign it to the left. That's why I'm going to type in here that we're assigning values to the variables. So the variables, we got some spots in memory, and they're going to hold whatever's in those text properties of the text boxes. Now let's display some information in our LBL information. LBL information.text equals, and I want to combine the first and the last names. We're going to combine them one way is with the ampersand. That's the symbol that's above the 7. A lot of people call it the and symbol. So I'm going to type that right in between and have str first name and str last name. A fancy name for this is string concatenation. It's a nice way to say we are smashing strings together. This is going to come very close to what we want, but let's see what we really get. I'll type in a first name of Santa and a last name of Claus. There's Santa Claus all smashed together, but there's no space in between. If I want a space in there, I'm going to have to explicitly put space in there. Space is a character, just like the letter W or any other letter. So I'm going to actually, in quotation marks, put a space. That will get us what we want. There's the name Santa Claus with a space. Looks good. More to come on day 2.